What is up, guys? BQ49 here. We are back to Creative Question of the Week. And I just want to apologize for not releasing a video last week. I got super busy and time flies by sometimes. And I just lost track of time and I didn't have time to make it. So I apologize for that. I hope you understand. I hope you took that opportunity to maybe catch up on some old videos. I don't know. I don't know what it is you do. Last week, or I guess the week before, we had some really great interactions. We talked about immigration, and that sparked a lot of debate. So I want to say thank you to all the people who participated in that debate that we had, or discussion, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's more like a discussion. Let's call it a discussion. So thank you to everyone involved in that. That was a lot of fun. And, it was really great to see your guys' opinions on things, right? When I'm making these videos, I'm just basically talking to myself. I don't know how you feel about what I'm saying. I don't know how you feel about the topic at hand. So I really appreciate when you chime in and just put in your 2 cents so that we know where you stand, basically. So that's cool. I'm really digging this series for that reason. Be sure to leave some questions. We're having a lot of discussions, but not as many questions. So, yeah, keep that in mind. We're playing Magic the Gathering again. I'm sorry, guys. This is the game I'm playing. We just had a new set release, so there's a bunch of new cards to use. So, this is why I'm showing these videos, because this is the game I'm playing right now. So, hopefully we can find a new game for next week. Maybe, maybe not. No promises. But again, as always, this is not really the focus of anything. Okay, the focus is creative questions of the week. And this week we got in or I guess it was last week, whatever, we got in a question that I wanted to answer, and I really appreciate all the questions that were asked, but this is the one that really struck out to me, and it comes from CQotW. I don't know how to say your name. He asked, a lot less political than the last one, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so I'll see my builds in Minecraft or Space Engineers or my drawings, and I won't like it, so I'll scrap it. However, a lot of my friends love my builds and think I am like the ultimate building drawing master. So my question to you is, how are you proud of your creation rather than see it and want to remake it from the ground up because it doesn't meet your standards? Great question, CQotW. Remember, guys, if you want to, this is the thing about Creative Question of the Week. You're not just asking me what I think, right? So that's part of it. And I'm the focus of this channel, sure. But whatever you want to talk about is what you should ask the question about, right? Whatever you want to have a discussion about, whatever you're interested in, that's what you should ask your questions about. And a lot of you do that, and I think it's great. So like CQotW here, he wanted to talk about creativity and making art that doesn't meet your standards. And so I wanted to answer this question because I consider myself somewhat of an artist. I believe all people are artists in some way. Everyone has some creative aspect of themselves, and I feel as though I'm very creative. And so I wanted to answer this question because I thought a lot about it, and I wanted to talk about something I've been doing recently. I've been doing a lot of watercoloring. When I stopped playing Minecraft, you need a creative outlet. I needed a creative outlet, so I started doing watercoloring. And I haven't watercolored since I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. Okay, and so it's a learning process, of course. But what I discovered, through all my artistic things, all my artistic passions, is that there's no such thing as mistakes. I think mistakes is kind of a misnomer, right? I think there's only one kind of mistake for human beings to make, and that's not learning from what you perceive to be your mistakes, right? That is the only mistake that you can make, is not learning from your mistakes. Does that make sense? I know it sounds kind of weird, and I think the problem is with the language, right? I don't think mistakes is really the right word to use when creating art, because there's no such thing as a mistake. Who is it? Like Bob Ross, I think you used to call them happy accidents, right? And that's what they really are. They're happy accidents, because a mistake is nothing more than a lesson to be learned. Right, so I wanted to talk about my watercolor. I'm going to flash up some pictures of some watercolors that I've done, and I just want to talk about them briefly. The first one is this one, and it's just some, I don't know what you would call it, a scenery, a landscape of a power line, right? And that's what it started as. I was just going to do a power line, but I actually went back because I didn't like the sky, and I tried to tweak the sky, and I left a horrible gray stain on my sky near the top. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had spent so much time on these trees and on this power pole that I didn't want to scrap it. So what I decided to do was add some meteors and create a meteor shower, so that the top meteor at the very top of the image was my mistake, and it looked like, when I kind of made my eyes go fuzzy, it looked like a meteor. So I took that mistake and I decided, okay, it's gonna be the apocalypse. So I made one meteor, okay, and I added red, I added orange, I added yellow, and all the black you see in the image was my mistake. And I made a meteor, and I said I had one meteor, and I was like, well, why aren't there 5 meteors? So I made like a bunch more meteors. And then I said, well, why hasn't one crashed? So I made one crash, and I made it smoky, and in my opinion, it made the painting so much better, right? Imagine this painting without the meteors. It would have looked kind of shoddy. It would have just been boring, I guess you would say. But the meteors liven it up. It gives you a sense of what's going down, and what's going down is the end of humanity, and you better run, okay? So it was a happy little accident, and I'm actually glad that I made that mistake, because it made the painting so much cooler. I'll show you this painting here. This painting, I was basically trying to copy a picture that someone had taken, and I totally messed up on the reflections in the water. It just came out all wrong. And while I wouldn't say this painting is very good, in my opinion, I really screwed up. The water, I was trying to make reflections of the trees in the water, and it just didn't work out. So I kept the painting. I didn't go back. I kept working on it. But I think the moral of this story is, well, now I know how to do reflections in water. It's very difficult to do, but this was my first attempt at it. And what I learned from this painting was that you have to be very careful. You have to put less paint than you would think, because the paint runs. Because I was doing a wet on wet method where you wet the paper and then you add wet ink, or not ink, but watercolor. And so I learned a lot from this painting. And it still came out okay. It just like the reflections look like just a murky swamp, I guess. So it's not the best, but you get the idea. I learned something from it, and that's the important thing. Another one I wanted to show you was this birdie right here, and this is the same kind of thing. So I was doing a wet on wet, and I was just doing the background, and I was making I was just trying to make a weird color, multicolor background, but the water, the paper kind of not crinkled, but bent, and the water pooled up in one place. And I was like, oh man, what do I do now? Because like all the color was pooled up in one area, actually 2 areas. So I was like, what do I do now? How do I fix this? What I decided to do was make the pools of water, I turned them into blue clouds. And then I turned another one into that other meteor you see there. And so you can't even tell that they happened, right? Because I worked with them. Rather than let the mistake destroy what I was trying to do, I worked with it. And so I think the blue clouds, because it was a pool of blue ink, blue coloring, I think the blue clouds really add something to this painting. I think the blue contrast of the blue bird, it really kind of helped a lot. And so it was another happy accident. And then the shooting star in the background was another happy accident. I was like, wow, this actually improved the painting. It's not something I would have done had there not been a mistake. So I think whenever you're creating art, there's 2 ways of going about dealing with something that you didn't intend. And you can look at it as a horrible disaster that ruined everything, or you can look at it as an opportunity to change, to grow, to evolve. And while I talk about this, I'll put up some of my other paintings just to show you what I've been doing in this downtime since I've been playing Minecraft. But I think that's a lesson that has to be learned when we do art, yes, but it's also a life lesson, right? You have an opportunity whenever a mistake occurs to see this mistake in one of those 2 ways. If you see it in the first way, if you see a mistake as something that's going to set you back, it harmed you, it's to your detriment. Well, if you see it that way, then you're right. Just like we've talked about in other past videos, whatever you believe your reality is, you're right, because that's what your reality will be. Your reality is a reflection of your beliefs. So if you see a mistake or an accident or whatever as something that's going to hold you back, then you're absolutely right. It will hold you back. But if you're able to see a mistake as an opportunity to learn, grow, expand, evolve, then that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get an opportunity to learn, expand, evolve, adapt, right? So whenever you do art, whenever you do anything in life, it's always better to embrace your mistakes and see how can they help me. I'm sure we've all had situations in our lives that we kind of regret, right? When we look back on them, we say, oh man, I didn't do things well that way, right? I did the wrong thing, right? I think we've all experienced that to some degree. And I think it's very important that you actually look back on that, not as seeing as you did something wrong, but if that situation hadn't have occurred, you may have made a bigger error, right? If you hadn't learned from that situation, you wouldn't have the knowledge that you have now. So it's very important to look back on your errors not as errors. You need to look back on your errors. I'm using air quotes because they're not really errors. They're happy accidents. You need to look back on your happy accidents as learning opportunities. It's so important that we learn every chance we get, guys. That's why I'm doing this series. I think you can learn from me, and I think I can learn from you. And that's the reason why I'm so adamant about you guys asking questions, getting involved, spitting out your opinions about what you think, because not only can I learn from you, but everyone in the comment section can learn from you, right? Or maybe someone's going to illuminate you. So it's so important. I know when you're younger, a lot of you are younger. I know it's the idea of learning is something that it's kind of uncomfortable. And I think a large part of the reason why is because you're forced to learn in school. Your parents, your teachers, your educators are always telling you, you got to learn this, you got to learn that. So the idea of learning is kind of ugly to you. You don't want to do it because you're forced to do it. It's sort of like when your parents made you eat your vegetables. You didn't want to eat them just because you were forced to do it. I think it's the same thing with learning. And I think a lot of us have put up blockages towards learning because we've been forced to in our school. But learning is the most important thing you can do as a human. That's why you're on this earth, is to learn and to grow, right? So just because you've been forced to do it, I'm begging you guys, don't have a negative viewpoint of it. Don't have a negative viewpoint of learning. It's just okay. Here's the problem. I think in school you're forced to learn things that are nonsense, that don't apply to you, that have no bearing in your life, right? I mean, who gives a bleep when the War of 1812 was? That should be an easy one. Okay, that should be an easy one for you to remember and learn. But at the same time, who really cares? It has no bearing on your life, really. Of course, some people are gonna say you got to learn from the mistakes of the history's past, and yes, that's true. But I'm as far as you in the moment right now, it really doesn't have much bearing on you. But when you make a mistake, that's a lesson that directly relates to what you need to know now. The universe wouldn't put a mistake in front of you. Again, I'm using air quotes. They're happy accidents. The universe wouldn't put happy accidents in front of you if you didn't need to know that lesson right now. If it didn't directly pertain to you in your life in the present moment. So it's always good to decide, to make the decision that you're always going to be learning. It's very important to make that decision. Because a lot of us will just shut our brains off and we don't want to learn. You went to school all day. I don't need to learn anything else, right? Well, you need to learn still, okay? But you need to learn the pertinent information. And that's going to be your little happy accidents along the way. So, it's... I don't know what else to say. Have I made myself clear? It's very important, guys. And it's something that you gain with age, I think. Maybe it's something you gain with wisdom. Maybe age and wisdom are intertwined. But I've been a child before. I've been a kid. I've been a teenager. And I know what it feels like to be those ages. And I'm telling you, if I look back on my life, I absolutely wish I understood then what I'm telling you right now. So take it from me as a person who's old, okay? I wish that I could see my mistakes as learning opportunities back when I was a kid. I absolutely do. I would have improved so much more quickly. I would have had more opportunities. I would have been a more well-balanced, well-rounded person if I didn't have this negative energy attached to me and my mistakes. Because a mistake, when you do it, a happy accident, when you do it, it feels horrible. You feel like a failure. You feel incomplete. You feel inadequate. And those are all negative feelings that are going to help to block you from learning the lesson. And I encourage you guys to see yourselves as stronger than you really are, than you really think you are. I encourage you guys to really think of yourself in this way. You can do no wrong. Literally, you can do no wrong. You are a supreme being. You've got a mind, you've got a heart, you've got an intuition. You can do no wrong. Anything that you perceive as wrong that you've done is a chance for you to change and to improve, to make yourself even better. Right? And so that's the way to go through life. Instead of saying, oh, I'm such an idiot, I'm such a dork, I said the wrong thing, I did the wrong thing, oh, woe is me, I'm not coming out of my bedroom, I'm going to play Xbox all day. That's not the way to live life. And if you have that mentality, it's going to be kind of a mission for you to grow out of that, to break yourself free from that. A lot of adults don't ever break themselves free from that and then keep making the same happy accidents because they never learn from them. Right? If you don't learn from your happy accidents, they're going to happen over and over and over again. That's why some criminals keep going back to jail. That's why some people stay in poverty their whole life. Because they keep making the same happy accidents, but they see them as huge failures. And they let the failures get the best of them. And then they don't learn the lesson because they're too busy wallowing in self-pity. I'm such an idiot, right? Don't have that mentality, guys. It's so important. See yourself as an infallible being. And any mistake, happy accident you make is just another little lesson for you to use to get better. To say to yourself, I don't want to make that mistake again. What do I need to know to never let that happen again? Right? And all of a sudden, your little mistake, your happy accident is going to be the thing that stops it from ever happening. You're breaking the cycle. You're breaking the cycle of it continuing over and over. So whenever something bad happens in your life, the first thing you should be asking is, what is the lesson to be learned from this bad thing? Right? Even if it's not a mistake you made, if any negative thing that you perceive as negative happening to you, your first and only question should be, what is the lesson in this? And if you're able to learn that lesson, you're going to go on to the next course, and that old mistake will never happen again. You might be retested, You might be retested, but you'll know how to deal with it because you learn. So it's all about your mentality. It's all about your approach. It's all about your state of mind. And that's how we can create the realities that we're experiencing. That's just how it works. It's your reception to what happens to you defines what happens to you. Have I made myself clear, or is it super confusing still? This is your opportunity now to get into the comment section and say what you think about this. Maybe if you guys want, you can share a story about a happy accident that occurred to you. And maybe some of you will say how you let it get the best of you. Maybe some of you will say what you learned from it. But I'm hoping to hear how you've responded to your happy accidents. And maybe we can learn from that. Maybe you can learn about yourself. I think reflection is very important. I think looking back on our happy accidents, our mistakes, or the negative events that occur in our life, I think it's very important to look back and reflect and learn from them. Even if it happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you can still learn the lesson now today. Time is not an issue. The only issue is, will you or did you learn the lesson? Make sense? Alright, well that's going to be the video for today. I really appreciate all you guys tuning into this channel. I know, like I've said before, there's not too many of you, but I appreciate every single last one of you for tuning in. I do apologize for last week. I'm going to try not to let that happen again. I think I need better planning sometimes. But put your comments in the comment section. I want to hear from you. Put your creative questions of the week for next week in the comment section. I want to have a large variety of questions. And if I didn't answer a question you really wanted answered, ask it again. All right, so that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great happy accident. Peace.